Chapter 3, Thrown into the Deep. The corporate world and the granulation plant that tested everything. Entering the corporate world was like stepping into a larger, more demanding classroom, one where the lessons were no longer in books, but in decisions, deadlines, pressure, and people. I started my career with the advantage of being a board top-notcher, but inside the real world of work, that title meant very little. What mattered was competence, precision, and character. I found myself drawn into the world of petroleum, an industry misunderstood by many, criticized often, but vital to the country's progress. The oil sector demanded discipline. It required understanding systems, logistics, safety, finances, operations, and national economics all at once. Later in life, I would realize that this was the place where God rounded off my skills, not just as an engineer, but as a Filipino who needed to understand how the nation actually worked. One of the first major tests of my professional life came with a project whose urgency left no room for hesitation: the construction of a Furadon granulation plant for the Masagana 99 program of President Marcos Sr. The task was clear and impossible on paper. A granulation plant had to be built in 28 days to meet the planting season. No delay, no excuse. Food security was at stake. The whole country was watching the success of Masagana 99, and this small granulation facility became a crucial part of that national effort. Those 28 days were a training ground like no other. I was young, untested, but determined. The pressure was immense, the timeline unforgiving. But youth has a way of embracing the impossible. We worked day and night, solving one problem after another, improvising where needed, calculating risks, trusting our training, and pushing our limits. And by the grace of God, the plant was finished on the 28th day, exactly on time. It was then that I realized that engineering was not just formulas and structures. It was service. It was responsibility. It was a contribution to the nation's survival. And it was a lesson that prepared me for every complex challenge that followed. The oil industry itself was a world of constant learning. The public often misunderstood it, blaming it for high prices, without seeing the global forces behind every fluctuation. Inside, however, the work required integrity, efficiency, and decision-making that affected millions. I learned finance, distribution, refinery operation, corporate planning, and even a bit of law, pieces of knowledge that later helped me understand the totality of a system. Looking back, I see how this was part of God's pattern for me. He placed me where pressure forms character. He exposed me to the complexity of running systems that keep a nation going. He taught me that a job is not just a job, it is a calling to serve others. The corporate world was not easy, but it was the perfect ground where the virtues of my childhood and the discipline of my studies were tested, proven, and strengthened. It was here that I learned to lead, to endure, to work with people, and to make decisions that mattered. It was the beginning of a long journey, one that would take me all over the Philippines, deepen my understanding of the world, and eventually lead me to the greatest discovery of my later years. That every skill, every hardship, every project was preparing me for a mission far bigger than any corporate role.